Okay, good day, students. So, like, this is our possibly our last class. Like, I want us to go over troubleshooting and ensuring that your variables is in the correct format. So, in this lab, this lab will be very quick and will be like making sure that our code is file is in the correct format and how we'll also go over how we write variables properly, right? So, okay, so I want us to start by like trying to fix our file before you run it, right? So if you still remember, like from our previous classes, the device that we've been using is CODESYS WinV3, and let's say if we look at our device and see like that we have a wrong device, right? How do we fix that? So you're gonna right click on this device, right? And then you're gonna go to, so now before I do that, you can see that this version or this device, it's called WinV3 times 64. So the device that we usually use is just called this WinV3, right? So we'll change back to that. So how we do that is we right click and then you go to update device, right? And then now you can see we have a wide range of devices, but now we'll choose the one that we usually use, which is CODESYS control WinV3, right? And then you press on update device, right? And as you can see now here, it has changed to the default device that you usually use, right? And then, so now we have this, right? As you can see, like under, when we are working on our code, right, for CIROS particularly, right, we usually have this file and this file. This one we don't have it, like, so we just delete it because we don't need it, right? So like under application, we usually have this. We usually have library manager, PLC, our, like this is our file where we write the code in and our symbol configuration, right? So next thing we should do is that we should make sure that since we are using CIROS, which is a virtual space, should make sure that we enable simulation, right? And then under symbol configuration, we should make sure that IO access is enabled, right? And then now for the most important part, right? How we write variables, right? As you can see, we have P0, right? But if you still remember, we had P1 as a stop button from our previous class, right? So now we have to, let's say we're trying to add P1 here. How do you do that? So now how you write or how you create a new variable, let's say you want to add a new variable, right? That's not here. Or, okay, let's say you want to add a variable like this, right? So how you write it is that you say P1, right? So you say caps lock P1, right? And then you say add, right? You can see that. So this is just add. And then let's say I want to add like P1, right? So now I say percentage sign, right? I X 0. So since we already have 0, 0.0, I'm going to say 0, 0.1, right? Colon, and then bool, semicolon, right? So I'm done adding my variables. Now I just have to label it that it's the stop push button, right? Which is usually normally closed, right? So now be also mindful of this. So like for everywhere like where the input it's a normally closed, right? I've put NC. NC stands for normally closed. So now if you look at variables like this, yes, so yeah, this is 1, 2, 3 NC means that those inputs, they are normally closed inputs, right? So be aware of that, right? So now one thing like you should also notice is that like your CODESYS file should be in between variable and n variable, right? So it should be between these two, right? It should be between variable var and end variable, right? So we should make sure that it's between those. But now, even though there's still an error, right? So now, like for your CODESYS, right? Here, this is not complete. It can't be like this. So how you fix that, right? In front of this PLC underscore PRG, right? You just have to write program open space, right? So now you can see the error disappeared, right? So now what else? As you can see, like how we wrote the variable in this comment, right? So now you look at, like, is there anything missing that they didn't put here? So here, as you can see, they didn't put in a semicolon, right? So you put in that semicolon, the error disappears, and then as you can see, even these ones, they don't have semicolons, right? So you fix that, you put semicolons, like semicolon, 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 right? So now you can see the errors have disappeared, right? So now here, so now it is very important that you look at your variables. They have to be exactly in this order. So it's IO, for example, it's IO at percentage sign IX 2.0 colon bool semicolon, right? So you should make sure when you're looking at your variable, it has all of these features on it. Otherwise, it's going to give you an error, right? So even this one, you can, if you analyze it, right, you can see that this one doesn't have percentage sign. So you can go around putting in the percentage sign. So percentage sign, as you can see, as I'm putting the percentage sign, the errors are going away. So you want to make sure, for example, that you put in the percentage sign for each and every one of those variables, right? So just to ensure that, like, they're in the correct format, right? So guys, formatting, it's important. So like, I want you to look at, like, the format of how the variables are written, right? Even the data type. So let's say, for example, like, your data type, it's written as an int, right? As you know, like, inputs and outputs, right, the ones we've been using, right, they were all in the form of Boolean, right? So you should make sure that they are all in Boolean form. So now, as you can see, the errors have now disappeared, right? Even your, like, the variables that you created, your timer, as you can see, like, its data type now, it's currently RS, right? So you make sure that it's a tone variable, right? So you make sure that it's in the correct data type, right? So your timer, it's a tone variable. It's not a RS, it's not an int, it's a tone variable, right? So now you can see, since I think we've addressed everything, right? So now there are no errors here. So now it's up to you, like, to fix the errors that are here now, right? So, like, following the instructions, like, dependent on the station. So now, for example, this is the separating station, right? Following instructions from your lab test 1, right? I want you to fix this station following those instructions from your test 1, right? So now, like, how I want you to answer on the test, right? I want you to, so let me just open, let's say, for example, Word, right? So now, let's say you identify an error in your code, right? So let's say, like, can I put this? So let's say you can see that, like, now this is an error, right? Or let's say, let's use I4 for meanwhile. So let's say you know that I4 is to be negated, right? So how you answer that question, right, is that you have to come to your Word, right? So in your Word, you say, so you label, you say error, right? Right. So after you label the error as your I4, right, you say error is in I4 in, so yeah, just make sure. So you say error, so you say error is I4 line 1, right? This is just an example of how you can answer the question. You can answer it in a paragraph form or like this because it seems more clear, right? So you say error, it's in I4 line 1, right? So line 1, right? And then after labeling that the error it's in I4 line 1, right? And then now you explain error type, right? So in your error type, right, I want you to explain what's happening with I4, right? So let's say, like, for instance, this is just an example. So you say I4 is supposed to be negated, right? And then if you say like I4 is supposed to be negated, also I want you to give me a reason why you're saying I4 is supposed to be negated, right? So in this instance, you can say, yeah, like you give a reason why you're saying I4 is supposed to be negated, right? So you explain like in the context of like how is I4 like when it's not negated, when I4 is like this now, how is it affecting the output or how is it affecting the flow of current, right? And then the last statement that like you're supposed to learn, you're supposed to like tell me how to fix the error, right? How to fix the error, right? So now here you explain to me like how you fixed the error, right? And then yeah, so you basically say in a context of, how can I put this? So you say, as you explained, that I4 is supposed to be negated, right? So now here you are telling me that like in order to enable maybe that current flows to the output, right, or something like that, you have to I4 is to be put in the circuit as a normally, let's say, as a normally open, right? So explain the like one thing that I want you to use in your explanations, right? It's like the state of your contact and your output, right? So you're gonna say like I4 is a normally open or it's a normally closed, whatnot. So if you put it in the circuit like this will happen, right? That's why you have to, when you put it in, you have to negate it so current flows or it doesn't flow. So like your explanation should be centered around like those contexts of like the state of the input, right? And also why you're negating it, why not negating it. So like this is what I expect to see when I'm reading through your, like how you address the code. So it's the error. Well, so you identify the error and you explain what is it supposed to be doing, and then also explain how is it affecting your circuit, and then the last statement you explain to me how you fix the error, right? And also while you are typing here, I also want you to fix it here, right? So if you fix it, so that at the end of your, when you are done fixing, right, you are able to write your, what you call, you are able to run your code to make sure that it works, right? So like what I want you to do here, right, I also want you to also do the same. So like if there's a problem with the variables, I want you to explain what the problem and how you addressed it, right? So like similar to how you explain here, right, you also do the same for the variables and for the device and anything else that might go wrong, right? Or anything else that's wrong in your code, right? So I'm not gonna go through the whole troubleshooting process with you guys. Just wanted to like show you how to answer questions for the test and also what to look for in the context of fixing errors, right? So yeah, good luck.